In my last video, I talked about praise. This video is about worship. I call it Worship 101. The act of worship has no limits and no rules, but it must have a beginning. When I was a new Christian, I asked 3 ministers in 3 different churches, what was the difference between praise and worship? They had no answer. This told me why there were no lessons teaching how to praise or worship. When the church was told that it was time for worship, we were told to sing 2 or 3 songs from the hymnal. It was very dry and very empty. Few, if any, enjoyed the songs. I doubt if God was pleased or smiled with approval. I realized that if I really wanted to worship the Lord, I would have to figure out a way that is pleasing to both of us. I tend to be somewhat analytical. I say this as an explanation of why my way of worship is probably different from what you expect. You may be artistic or musical, so your way of worship might be very different from mine. The following is not the way of worship, it is my way. You are free to develop your own way. I share this as nothing more than a guide. To me, worship is very intimate, and it is our opportunity to develop a relationship with the Almighty. You should have a place where you are not listening to background sounds or noises, if possible. Choose a time when there will be no interruptions. Try to get as quiet as you can. Turn off your cell phone. Take a bottle of water. It is best if you don't set a time limit. But if you must, you must. This is God's time. Praise is what you say about Him. Worship is what you say to Him. There are more than 360 Hebrew names for God in the Bible. I have a name that I call Him. It is in English. I call Him Jehovah Awesome. To me, this name describes Him better than one of the 360 specialized names. Awesome sums up and includes all His other traits. I have a number of subjects that I put before Him. Mostly, I like to tell Him about how awesome His creation is. Most of my worship is for the Father. Sometimes I worship Jesus, and sometimes I worship Holy Spirit. Notice I call Him Holy Spirit. That's His name. That is who He is. The Holy Spirit is what He is. I might begin, Father, let me concentrate on your solar system and our Earth. You created our solar system, which consists of about 9 planets. All but one has elliptical orbits, which make them uninhabitable. Elliptical orbits cause the planet to either be too cold because of the distance from the sun or too hot due to the closeness to the sun. Due to these temperature extremes, life cannot exist on 8 of the 9 planets. You knew that, of course, because you are Jehovah Awesome. There's only one planet that has a circular orbit, Earth. Because it has a circular orbit, most of the temperatures are livable the year round. Our planet is 93 million miles from the sun. Its orbit is perfect. Any closer, and we would bake like potatoes. Any farther out, and we would freeze like ice cream. I am not surprised, because you are awesome. You are Jehovah awesome. You have tweaked the axes angles of the earth to prevent thermal extremes. You tilted the earth 23 degrees, which provides climate variations. This tilt gives us the 4 seasons and prevents the equator from being too hot. Without the 23-degree tilt, we would not have the temperate seasons that make growing crops possible. Father, you have thought of everything. You are Jehovah awesome. The orbit speed of each planet around the sun is exactly fast enough to balance its mass to keep it in its orbit forever. Slower, and it would eventually crash into the sun. Faster, and the orbit would eventually go into deep space. You have hung the planets in perfect balance for their velocity and their orbit. You are, after all, Jehovah awesome. Lord, if all of this was not enough, you have spun the earth so that it rotates exactly 1,002 miles per hour. It is constant and never stops. This gives us 24 hours a day, minus a few minutes. If the earth did not rotate, then one side would continually face the sun, getting too hot to support life. The opposite side of the earth would be too cold to support life. The rotation of the earth also creates gravity. Lord, you are truly awesome. Jehovah awesome. Father, when I think of all the variables that you have in perfect balance, I find that I have left one out. The size of the earth is exactly the right size to sustain life. Any smaller, and the earth would not have enough gravity to contain the atmosphere with its current density. This atmospheric density protects us from meteors and solar flares. Any larger, and the earth would weigh much more than it does now. That would change our distance from the sun. It would also change our temperature, etc., etc. Father, you have perfectly held not just the earth in balance, but all the planets and all the galaxies which are also in orbit. There are no random planets in random orbits flying wherever they will. You have placed all the stars, planets, galaxies, everything in perfect orbits and balance. You are indeed the Creator. You are Jehovah awesome. If you choose to worship this way, it will build your faith and give you ammunition against those who argue for evolution. Ponder these things, and you will see that God is the supreme designer. If everything was the result of random events, then planets would crash into other planets or suns. There would be no solar systems and no galaxies. Sometimes I tell him about how amazing the brain is, or the eye, or the ear, or the miracle of human creation. Now there is a subject. I love to marvel at the hydraulic engineering that is needed to pump water from the roots of trees to maybe 350 feet to the leaves or needles at the top of the tree. I live in the woods and have never heard the trees pumping water. I share my observations with him concerning the way he has oxygenated the air we breathe or the water that the fish live in. As bizarre as they seem, those are some of the ways I worship. Perhaps it is a little strange, but I never received any teaching when I attended church. If you would like me to share the different subjects just mentioned, leave a comment. If I get a number of comments, then I will invest the time for you. Also, tell me what state or what country you are listening in. Well, I hope you got something out of this. Thank you for listening.